So I have just finished studying music at university, and I have some thoughts as to whether or not it was worth it. I have compiled a list of pros and cons that I wanted to share with you to hopefully give you a balanced perspective so that you can decide for yourself whether or not this is something that you should seriously pursue. Now, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to answer the question straight up. Yes, for me, I think it was ultimately worth it. I got a lot out of music school and I've developed a lot as a musician, but I've also got cons. I've got certain things that I think are definitely downsides to studying music, to studying a music degree, and we'll get into that later in this video. I will be starting with the pros. But before we begin, I just wanted to mention that I studied at Otago University. So this is by no means some legendary music school or conservatory or anything like that. I actually enrolled in this course at 24 years old, so I am by no means some uber talented musician or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy who wanted to improve my skills as a musician. The course I studied was a Bachelor of Music, majoring in contemporary performance. So I studied the keyboard and I focused on the performance aspects of music. Of course, there is so much you can study, and I kind of was interested in a lot of different things. I looked at production, I looked at a bit of composition and theory, and music school definitely gives you the opportunity to explore different fields of music and kind of decide what avenue you want to pursue professionally. I just wanted to mention that up front because a lot of the things I'll be talking about are, of course, from my perspective, and I focus on the performance aspects of studying music. Let's get into this list of pros and cons. As I said, we'll be starting with the pros. The first pro, top of my list, easily the best pro of studying music, is the friends that you make. Hands down, this was the best thing of music school for me. I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, it's the friends you make along the way, but it really is the case. Now the reason why I think this is a pro specifically for a music degree is because making friends is actually part of the course. Getting together with the other people in the course, collaborating with them, writing music with them, recording, doing all these different things, playing music with other people, that is part of the course. And so I genuinely believe that music students can form stronger bonds and stronger connections earlier on into the picture than other degrees, because we are playing music together and it's a way to bond and it's a way to connect. Another thing I wanted to mention is that it's a very constructive, productive, and wholesome time socializing outside of university. Dunedin University is notorious for its student culture. You should see this place after big party event nights. There's so much glass on the streets and they listen to drum and bass and jump onto the rooftops and stuff, and that's totally fine. If you want to do that, that's cool. And I'm not saying that music students don't party, we definitely party, but a lot of the time that we spend together outside of university is time that's productive and creative. We are out there playing gigs, we're out there writing music, producing music, exploring venues, going to open mic nights. That's something I specifically wanted to mention because I think it's so valuable. My second pro is the collaborations. You're suddenly in an environment where there's musicians all around you and everyone wants to improve. Everyone wants to be a better musician. They want to produce things, they want to make cool stuff and be creative. You form bands, you form these musical connections that you would otherwise struggle to find outside in the world. Music school is a place that brings together these musicians. By the end of the first year studying music, I had already formed my bands and my core collaborations that I could build on, and they have grown into these amazing things. In fact, I've created a whole vlog on this channel just to document the journeys of the bands that I'm a part of, because there's so much happening. We play so many gigs, there's just so many shenanigans, and it's all because of those foundations that we built through music school. When you're a part of that kind of environment, when people are interested, they want to get better, they want to collaborate, magic can happen. And this is definitely one of the pros of studying music at university. My third pro is the mentorship. You can definitely make it by studying music online and doing your own practice at home, but I genuinely think that the musicians who constantly have guidance from teachers and mentors, I think these musicians are on the fast lane to becoming brilliant. I think mentorship is such an important part of being a musician. Always having someone above you, someone who's been there, someone who's got that experience of what you are trying to achieve as a musician, to really help you on your journey, to bring the best out in you. My mentor's name was Doug. This guy was an absolute legend. He had so much like wisdom and experience. He taught me a lot about music and about how to be a better musician that I didn't find online. He taught me things like really honor and focus on the melody, bring the melody out. He taught me to stop playing so many notes and to create more space in the music. Of course, he taught me a lot of exercises and helped me improve my technique and helped me improve in different contexts as a keyboard player. It was just this overall guidance into becoming a better musician. Okay, my fourth pro is refinement. Now you're probably wondering, you went to music school. Did you become a better musician? Did you improve on your instrument? Yes, of course I did. But the word that I'm going to use for it is refinement. It was really about becoming a professional, refining my playing so that I could become a professional working musician. So as I said, I actually enrolled in music school at aged 24. So I had this kind of ego that, I kind of know what I'm doing, I feel like I'm pretty good at music. But I was seriously humbled. My keyboard playing, my piano playing was all over the place. There was no dynamics, there was not much nuance, or I couldn't play it in many contexts. I was very limited in what I could do as a keyboard player, as a musician. So music school for me was really about becoming very versatile and becoming very solid and building a very strong foundation. Okay, some of the things that I learned were like how to transpose on the fly, how to play in different contexts, reading lead sheets, communicating with other musicians, performing on stage, building a stage presence, finding my own voice and style, really just becoming a unit on my instrument, being able to hold the fort. Of course, I've got so much work to do to improve. The music journey is limitless and there's just so much more to practice and study, but my foundation is solid, and I think when you have a very strong foundation, you can really build a very tall tower that can go very high and not topple, because it's got that strong base that can just keep it grounded, that can keep it locked in. And I think that is something that's just so valuable to have as a musician. My fifth pro is networking and opportunities. These teachers and lecturers, they know people who know people, and they can hook you up with opportunities. I found that during my time at music school, there were just so many opportunities flying in. We had this guy, Scott, this drummer, who was playing in like all of the musicals. And in fact, the music productions, they were constantly looking for musicians in the music department, in the music school, because that's where there's always a constant supply of musicians, and that's where these productions are going to look for if they need professional, serious musicians who want to play in these productions. Another thing I wanted to mention is that university culture is very big. So the university likes to throw all these kinds of events. There's markets, there's cheap beer nights, there's student nights, there's student balls, there's all these kinds of events that university throws on, and all of these events need live music, and so they're going to contact the music department of the university, and that's how my band Emily Alice got all of these opportunities to get started. And through those gigs, we were able to like branch out. So my sixth pro is the resources and spaces available to you. Music school has pretty much everything you need to succeed as a musician. If you want to study theory and composition, you've got a library of books. If you want to rehearse with your band, you've got band rehearsal spaces. If you want to do your own private practice, you've got studio rooms to practice in. If you want to record music, you've got recording spaces. If you want to find people to write music with and collaborate with, you've got musicians all around you. Everything is there for you if you need it. I play the piano and the keyboard. There was a grand piano that I can practice on regularly, which is so cool. Unfortunately, no Nord Stage 3s. They favored Korg, which I wasn't a big fan of, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. I could deal with that. What I'm really saying here is that music school is an environment, and it's conducive to improving as a musician. I really feel that it's kind of like, it's like an ocean that you just dive into and you fully immerse yourself in music. And when you're fully immersed in something, it's like the fast lane to improvement. It's like that whole theory of full immersion language learning, right? When you learn a language in another country that speaks that language and you're forced to speak it, it's kind of like that. You're fully soaked in the world of music, and I think when you're in that kind of environment, yeah, you improve so much. My 7th pro is that music school opens your mind. I studied a bunch of papers on music ethnography, and I did not expect this. I went into music school really focused on performance, and I ended up discovering a very deep fascination for music and culture. I'm actually writing an epic science fiction fantasy book series called The Adventures of Jazz Cat and Reggae Dog. It sounds wild, I'm not going to get into it here, but music school and these papers on music ethnography really allowed me to develop like a sophisticated and sensitive kind of thought around these ideas, this kind of scholarly thinking around music and culture. You really develop this kind of reverence and respect for different styles of music. It opens your mind and you're like, oh my god, music is so powerful, it's such an important thing. There were papers on like, music and language, music and this, music and that. There was a whole paper on like music therapy and the healing properties of music. I took a whole paper on how to teach music, in fact, and that's really valuable and in fact very practical, because for me, I'm actually going into teaching the piano as a serious career. My 8th and final pro is that studying music is very practical. I am not someone who likes to study. I hate studying, I hate exams, I hated that stuff all throughout high school. I didn't want to do it. I'm a very much right brain creative type person. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to create stuff. Thankfully, music school was very much practical. I'm not saying that it was entirely practical. There was definitely theoretical stuff that we had to study. That if you're interested in that, you can definitely go all out on that side of things. But if you want to be more practical, you can. If you want to make more stuff, you can. And I think that's just something that I wanted to mention, because you might be like me, you might be someone that hates exams, hates theoretical stuff, and yeah, maybe studying music is for you, because you can definitely get very practical. You can make a lot of stuff. By the end of music school, you can have an entire portfolio of music that you've produced, music that you've written, music that you've composed, music that you've performed. You might have a band. Okay, so that was my list of pros. I'm going to remind you that this is all from my own perspective. These are things that I discovered and the things that I got out of music school. Now, here we go with the cons. The first con, and likely the biggest con, is that it costs a lot of money. Okay, I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. It costs a lot of money. We all know this. Studying the conventional way, going to university, yeah, it costs a lot of money and you need to take out a big loan. There isn't much more to say there. My second con, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the first con, there is no promise of any kind of employment afterwards. So if you're someone who wants that security of going and studying something and having like an actual job by the end of the degree, then maybe music school isn't for you. I'm not saying that there is no employment after music school. I definitely think it is possible, but generally speaking, music school doesn't really line you up for any kind of job or anything like that. Yeah, this is what makes studying music quite a risky move, because you take out a loan on the basis that you're gonna get a job afterwards, that you can start paying the loan off afterwards. But yeah, that isn't really the case. Music school definitely gives you a lot of things. It sets you up, it gives you a very strong foundation, but it's very much up to you whether or not you can make a job and make a living out of it afterwards. Now, these two cons alone are probably enough to like balance out the scales a little bit. I really think these two cons are huge and are definitely things to consider. After thinking about these cons, you can definitely like gauge whether or not music school is for you or not. My third con is that it can sometimes feel creatively restricting. When there's grades involved with a creative project, it can sometimes take away like that pure kind of creative approach to making music. If you're someone who just wants to create on your own terms, you want to create music that you know, just whatever, and you don't want anyone to critique it, maybe music school isn't for you. So you might make something that you absolutely love, that is something that is very much true to you, but you know, whoever grades it might tell you that there's a lot wrong with it, and there would just be this disconnect, right? So it can definitely be creatively restricting if you're trying to conform to these like grades and these certain standards that are set by the university and that are set by the teachers who are creating these assignments. Making music to get a grade is like something I didn't enjoy. Yeah, it can definitely feel creatively restricting sometimes. My fourth con is that you might have to study something that you're not actually interested in. So you might have a very good idea of what you actually want to study at music school, but music school has an idea of what you should study as a musician. There was a specific module in one of the papers which was focused on 4-part harmony, which is a very classical kind of theoretical structure that personally I found ridiculously challenging. I just could not wrap my mind around it, and it felt very redundant to what I wanted to achieve as a musician and to the music that I wanted to create. I'm not saying that it's completely invaluable, and there were definitely students who got a lot out of that stuff, but a lot of my friends who were studying contemporary performance, it just didn't apply, and it was redundant information, but we had to pass this module to get the degree. My fifth and final con is that it's really all up to you, and I think this goes to any degree. I think it's the whole thing of like what you put in is what you're gonna get out, but I think this is actually specifically the case for studying music. A lot of the progress that, you know, me and my friends have made through music school was actually all self-directed, was all the stuff that we did outside of uni to practice, to, you know, play with our bands, to write music and record music and play gigs and stuff, completely outside of uni. It's very heavily self-motivated. I don't know if this is a con or not. I think this is just a fact of studying music. It's really all up to you. Okay, so that was my list of cons. Yeah, I hope that gives you a somewhat balanced perspective. As I said, for me, it was definitely worth it. I've come out of music school with some amazing friends, collaborators, bands, experiences, and a very strong foundation as a musician. I'm definitely more of a professional now. I can go out into the world and be a session player. I can teach music with more authority. I can make content around music, and these are all things that I definitely got through music school. If you are thinking about studying music and you have any more questions, please feel free to ask me below. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me. Don't forget to vibe and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.